Hello everybody and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have a familiar system. If you watched the very first e-waste video, we took this out of e-waste and we did an initial kind of discovery on this computer to kind of see what was inside of it. And if you recall, this is the AMD Athlon 64 3000 plus computer. And today we're going to do, in the first part of this series, is work on restoring this computer back to its original glory-ish. And I say ish just because I won't be focusing on the retrobrighting just yet. That's going to be something in a future video when we talk about retrobrighting. I want to have a few examples of comparing the retrobrighting process and walking through that. And if you recall, this is the particular system that has the CPU cooler mount that's come off the board slightly. So we're going to kind of see what's going on there. It also did not have any floppy drive that was in it. The actual caddy was on the bottom. No hard drive, and a few other things, including this video card. This is the video card. This is an ATI, I believe it's the Radeon 9600 Pro Advantage, 128 meg card. And this is the one that had the seized fan here, or at least it's indicating it's seized. I haven't been able to move it at all. So we're going to work on trying to get that up and going again. Hopefully there's no damage to the card itself. You know, did this seize and then potentially overheat the CPU? Who knows? So we're going to find that out in this series. But again, let's go ahead and just dig right in. And we have everything set up on the bench to allow us to take a look and remember where we were in terms of this particular system, as well as we can start taking apart the system to try to remove all the parts and get them to a point where we're able to, well, kindly restore them if we can. Let's go ahead and just slide off the side of the case here, this panel, and we should be able to see, given the camera angle there, everything inside. So you can see this is, again, hopefully this is bringing back memories from the first video and everybody can see it clearly. And so this particular system, it's an absolute shame. I love the motherboard that's in this computer. I love the red PCB. My idea or my understanding is that this is, you know, hopefully meant for gaming and things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to get this kind of restored. So the first thing I'm going to pull out is the CPU fan and heatsink itself. And this was, and I say was, attached to the motherboard in some form. And there's definitely something going on here where the actual mount is lifted off of the motherboard. And we're just going to try to find out what's causing that. And the only way I'm going to work on that is when I get it out of the system completely, just because I want to really dig in and find out what's going on with that. But in the interim, this system here, this fan definitely feels like it can move no problem, which is wonderful. There's definitely a layer of gunk, dirt, and everything in there, so we will be removing the fan, getting it all scrubbed out, cleaned up, and getting the heatsink back in working, ideally working condition. So we're going to put that aside for now until we're ready to address that. Now, the other thing I want to pull out, again, we don't want to cause any damage to the motherboard, so I'm just going to pull out this floppy drive assembly. Actually, there is a floppy drive in here. I did not think there was, to be honest. Maybe it was just because the assembly was away from the front of the case where it's supposed to sit in like this. And yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and just disconnect the cables from it. And we're going to go ahead also and remove that floppy drive from the caddy itself, just because I want to give it a once over, give it a good cleaning. If you saw my other restoration video we did on the Pentium 2 450, it just feels really good to work on after it's all been scrubbed down, cleaned up, and I don't know. I just think it, call me crazy. Just, you know, I don't want to take shortcuts when I'm doing things like that because, I mean, you have dust bunnies that just are not invited to this party. So we want to make sure we get this all sorted out. So let's go ahead and get this removed here. All right, we have our floppy drive removed. I'm just going to put the caddy aside for now. There's no need. We'll clean that up separately. So we have our Mitsumi, just standard Mitsumi floppy disk drive, 3.5-inch floppy. So, I mean, there's nothing fancy about that outside of it. Yeah, getting that kind of all cleaned up. So I'll put that aside. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is remove the cables from the computer just to give us better access, visibility into accessing the other areas of the system. I really love these IDE cables just because of the form factor they're in. Let's go ahead and just pull this out and get that removed. So we have one IDE cable removed, and that would be from, I'm going to figure out that's IDE 1. So that's our primary. So we'll remove that. We'll get those cleaned up as well, just because I think it's important to clean that up. And the same thing with the floppy disk, floppy drive. So we remove that. The floppy cable has been removed. And we have our IDE. So it says MSI branded. I mean, that's right on the motherboard as well. I love the red cabling or coating that's on here. So that means labeling slave and your master and all those good things. So we'll go ahead and just remove that as well. And that's set on IDE 2, which would be the secondary IDE channel in this system. Okay, so we have the IDE cables removed and starting to look a little cleaner now for sure. So yeah, it's pretty dusty in here and dirty. And I'm getting a better look here at the mounting bracket for that heatsink. So yeah, it's going to definitely need a little bit of love there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just unhook the ATX connectors from the motherboard itself. There we are. We have that out. All right, so this system would have came out probably in 2001-ish, is my guess, based on when the processor was released. And so this would have really fell into, knocking on the door of the XP era, which is 2002. So I'm not sure what we're going to do in terms of an OS on this system. My gut feeling is we're going to go ahead and probably put in Windows XP on this computer, Windows XP Pro. Okay, so we're here now. Let's go ahead and remove the power supply just to make sure that we can get that out, get that cleaned as well. So there's only 3 screws on the back of this. I say only, it's probably all it needs. Okay, perfect. So we have our power supply, and our power supply is an A-open model number ATX 300GU. It is an output of 300 watts, which is great. And yeah, I mean, it's a bit dirty in there. I'm gonna take that out probably off camera and do a complete blowout of this fan. And I got a shop vac and everything we can use, and a blower and all those good things to get that cleaned out. Now, I mean, we could take it apart and see, but again, we'll just see. We'll just see what we're going to do on that. But I think for the sake of the amount of dirt that's in there, that requires a little more intervention than what we have here. Okay, so in here we have our cables going to our front I/O panel, which shows the lights and all those good things. I'm just going to snap a picture of this. This is something that I just generally do. There's one. It's pretty straightforward. That's the front audio. Okay. And take that as well to our USB, and then we'll take out the front lights. That's our LED indicators and reset and all that. And it seems to be color coded too. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we have all the front panel I/O items out of there, which is wonderful. And now let's go ahead and get this motherboard removed. So I'm seeing 1, 2, scanning 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Screws. They meant business. This wasn't going anywhere. Okay, let's go ahead and just start removing those screws. Again, you should never have to force these things, so if you run into a situation where it's just not coming undone, take another look at your work just to make sure that there's not something grabbing there. Okay, so we have the board loosened up there, which is great, and we'll just pop this out here, and we'll lift it up and out, and that is our motherboard. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and remove the case from the bench, and we'll go ahead and just focus in on this motherboard. Okay, so we have our motherboard out and the bench all set up for us. The first thing I'm going to do is just pop out this CR2032 battery. There we go. See, right tool for the right job. All right, so we have a CR2032 Panasonic battery. I mean, it's pretty standard. Pretty dead, probably. We have tons, so we'll get that replaced. And looking at the board, we'll go ahead and just remove this memory and get that off the board. We have stuck in there pretty good too. So we have our 256 megabytes of DDR266 memory, PC2100U. Okay, so we have our battery out, we have our RAM out. I'm looking at the capacitors, and I'm seeing zero bulging on any of the capacitors here. So I'm not worried about that. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on these. Well, yeah, no, that was just a reflection of light. So no, I don't see anything in here that's causing any difficulty. Go ahead and just remove this. This is, as you can see, I'll do a different angle. You can see how it's sticking up there away from the board, and it's held apart by that screw that's there. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the mounting screw here to relieve some of that pressure and find out what the heck is going on with this. Okay, so we just have a machine screw that's in here, and that came right off. Oh, okay. Okay, let's take a look at that CPU again. So this is actually, the board itself is fine. You have the mounts, the receiving mounts for the machine screw that goes in, but the head of this one's completely snapped off. Like there's a sharp piece of metal sticking out of there as well. How the heck did that happen? Like I'm not seeing anything here that would prevent this from going back on. That fits in there nicely. Just wondering what would have caused that to happen. Well, we have a new conundrum, I guess, is we need to get that out of the board and be able to get another machine screw to be able to use to replace this with. Okay, and we're back, and after much persuasion, we were able to get that screw removed, and you can see it's quite damaged, probably because of me, which is fine, between using my needle nose pliers, my vice grips, and similarly the cutters, side cutters. We were able to get a good grip on it and very carefully unscrew it from the board. Now, not only did I do that, but I was also able to find another machine screw that I believe will work for what we're trying to do here. And let's just double check. I think that, there we go. And it's going in. Now, there's definitely some damage to the socket. When I say socket, I'm talking about the receiver for the screw itself. Just because of how it was put in. And I believe it was cross-threaded, because once I get past a certain point, it starts to go through no problem, and that's what we want. So, yeah, we're going to be in a good place there. Okay, I'm just going to move the board aside for now, just because of what we're doing, and we'll get the components cleaned one by one as we go. Just grabbing a few of my items here to make sure we have things ready to go. So we have our wipes there, alcohol wipes. We also have our spray alcohol and the isopropyl alcohol as well. And like I said, the spray bottle. And we have our ESD brush kit. So that really makes a difference on these. All right, so let's go ahead and just get the dust bunnies cleaned off of this. And I mean, this is a laborious type of effort we have to put in here, and that's okay, because when we're done, the system will look beautiful again. There we are. Let's give it a good scrub in there. I hope everyone's enjoying this content. I definitely see, I love all your comments and everything in the description. I love to reply. I think I've replied to everybody, and if I haven't, I apologize. I'm definitely trying. It's definitely something that I strive to do, because I just love the interaction, and I believe if you're promoting it, you need to support it. So I'm definitely doing everything I can to respond to everybody. And if I didn't, I do go back a few times and look at different filters and settings to make sure I got everybody. If I didn't, my apologies. Okay, so we have our mount cleaned off, which is wonderful. And we may as well get the motherboard out next and get that kind of scrubbed out. I just wanted to get that mount done so that when we get the motherboard all cleaned off, then we can be in a better position to mount that. So there we are. We have our beautiful MSI motherboard. I just love the look of this board. And you know how when you're going through all the different systems and deciding what your next project's going to be, looks make all the difference in the world when it comes to this stuff too. Because I think this will look really good in a clear-sided case. I mean, it doesn't have any of the LEDs or all that good stuff, but I think this is fine. I'm just going to use a different brush on this. This seems to work a little better because it's a little more forgiving when you're going over the capacitors. This is definitely much firmer, and I don't want to do any damage to those. And it's just literally coming off in droves here, which is, it's great for what we're trying to do here. Bad for the board, as I mentioned in my other video and other content, is, you know, whenever there's a layer of dust on any electrical components, it builds up heat. It creates thermal resistance, and it's really good to get that cleaned off when you can, if you can. You don't feel comfortable doing it. You feel like you're going to do more damage than good, then don't. But yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and get this all removed there. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to give the motherboard a nice isopropyl alcohol bath. Now, this spray that I'm using, the spray version, is 70%. It takes a little longer to dissipate than the 99% that I have, but where this is in a spray bottle, it gives me more flexibility, I guess, in how to apply it. I can certainly use the 99%, but then I tend to use that more in tighter places with these cotton swabs and things like that to clean off the board. I mean, the alcohol wipes are similar as well, but where there's so many ups and downs here, it's hard to get in everywhere. Okay, so we have that thoroughly kind of scrubbed off now. I'm going to go ahead and just remove the last bit of that thermal grease from the CPU itself. Just because when you go to put new thermal grease on here, we want to make sure that it makes great contact on the board, or sorry, on the CPU. That's very important for the heat dissipation. Look at that, nice and clean, as if it's brand new again. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is put the board aside while that kind of just dries off the remaining, you know, between the alcohol wipes and the spray-on alcohol, just to make sure it's completely dried up. And that way, when we go ahead and put the next step, and everyone knows I love my deoxit, we'll get that added onto the board, and we'll go from there. Okay, the heatsink and fan phenomena we have going on here. So we're going to just remove that fan from the heatsink. There's no need of it being on there. It'd be easier just to access everything as well. Okay. Yeah, see? So I was mentioning, that is just completely caked on there. Isn't that crazy? Okay, let's just see what we have. Oh, yeah. There we are. There's the fan, everybody. Real life. Literally just caked on this heatsink. I mean, it almost looks like it was never cleaned ever. That is looking really, really good. Okay, that's that. Now, before I do anything else, let's get that cleaned up. These wipes are the best. I tell you. It's funny, I got introduced to them during COVID, actually. I never really thought about using them for anything like this until there were literally hand wipes for your hands. And I thought, well, if they're alcohol-based, that would be really good for my computer stuff. Okay, so we have this. I'm just going to give it a quick spray. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get in there with everything. I see more came out when I did that. Yeah, let's do a quick spray on this. Well, more's coming out, so it was worth doing it. Okay, we're going to put that aside, and we're going to work on the actual fan next. Here we are. So I'm just going to give it a spray. Oh, screws are coming out on me, which is to be expected. All right. And yeah, I'm going to give it a quick spray there and try to scrub it the best I can. Actually, you know what I'll do first? I'll use this to see if we can get a lot of this removed with this first, actually. Let's get some of that thick off. Okay, let's do a little quick spray here. Let's get that kind of all cleaned up. Okay, and we have our AMD fan. Let's go ahead and pop this back on. I'm just going to clean up the bench here a little bit. Okay, cleaning as we go. And I don't think there was any sort of rhyme or reason. I can't remember, to be honest, when this was, how this was on. I think as long as, you know, we might even change it around like that, just because where that mechanism is, I didn't want the wires to interfere with that. So now I'm going to put this back on the board like we had it a moment ago. And there's little plastic, kind of those plastic holes where they go. And I'm just going to go ahead and screw in our 2 screws. Now, we have the one that was factory, which is right here. I'm just going to go ahead and very carefully screw this in. And I'm not forcing it because there was definitely some stripping going on here. And I don't want to cause any additional damage. And there's definitely a bend in the plastic as well that you're maybe not seeing. And this is our temporary screw, or I say temporary, but this is our screw that I was able to find in my tickle trunk. There. Okay, I mean, that's a win, everybody. And we have that successfully on the board using a screw that I found. And that's just, yeah, it's solid. Now, before I do anything else and start messing with the CPU on there, I want to get some deoxide in there. I want to get that going, and then so it has time to dissipate while we're working on other things, like cleaning other components. This could be a slightly longer video just because of the amount of work that we had to do to get that bracket put back on, but look how beautiful that looks. I mean, I think we're in really great shape with this, considering what it was and how clean everything looks now, and all the dust and dirt are gone, so that's really good. All right, let's just go on ahead and put the contact cleaner in here. There we are. We have the contact cleaner in there now. So we're going to put that aside, let that kind of dry and do its thing. And we'll be in a really good shape when that's done. And next thing we'll do is this caddy. I'm just doing it not for any other reason than just it's next in line. Okay, so we have our caddy here. I'm going to take, first thing I'm going to do is get the brushes out, or the brush out. I'm going to use this angled one. It's just easier to get into the corners because of the angle where the brush head sits. There's not a whole lot in here in terms of dirt. Okay, but there's enough to say there was a reason to do it. And we'll just take wipes on this one. We don't need to spray rubbing alcohol or rubbing alcohol. I just rub alcohol on it. There we are. This does all the nice cleanup anyway. Again, just love these wipes for this sort of application. Pre-moistened for this application, this process. So it's good. There we have our caddy all cleaned up nicely. Put that aside. Actually, just going to clean out the desk here because I know some dust has been getting over here. So we're putting it aside. There we are. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is the floppy drive, just because I can. It's right there. I'm just going to brush off this dirt. Yeah, look at that. Awesome. And I did not test this drive, to be honest. I hope it works. All right, let's go ahead and get the optical drive out. All right, we're just going to go ahead and use this one drive in the system. I like to have two, especially if we're going to do disk copying and things like that. I like having the ability to do that. But where this is a beige supported case, and we're going to use beige drives. Okay, so let's go ahead and wipe all this down. There we are. And again, I didn't test this. I mean, it looks to be in great shape. But then again, it was in a bin. So every component is up for grabs until such time that we're able to test it. There's some physical damage on the front here a little bit. There's some gouges in the drive. I mean, it's not too noticeable, but just showing that it probably had some front end damage done to it. Okay, I'm going to put that aside. Now, let's see. We'll take the power supply for a minute, and I'm just going to wipe the exterior off on camera. I am going to go ahead and take this out and take the air compressor to it and get it kind of just cleaned out, because this was a Hoover vacuum, and you saw the fan that we took apart and cleaned already. That, if that's any indication what's in this thing, we definitely need to do that outside. And I can see that every single capacitor and component in there is just caked with dirt. And I'll plug it in. I'll do a test just out in the outside in the garage, just to make sure that if there's any capacitors that are going to blow or whatever, then we have an indicator that if this is good or not. And if it's bad, we'll go ahead and just replace it with another ATX power supply that I have. And so the other component I want to focus in on is the video card. So yeah, it's just an absolute shame if this is bad. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this card it may just be a budget card. I'm not sure. Let's see. These are in by little clips. Let's see if I can get them out with the pliers here. Okay. So let's talk. Let's get that out of there. Actually, I don't want that in there either anymore. I mean, just so we can wipe it off. It gives us more access to wipe everything off. There's our fan, and it is just seized. I'm seeing if I can give it any sort of coaxing here. Oh. Well, okay, a couple things. This power supply cable to the fan is actually, when I turn this, it actually starts to pull it in. I wonder if... yeah. There, pull that out. Let's... Again, this might be absolutely futile, but I'm just trying to get it to a point where, does it spin? I mean, it's already moving now, whereas before it wasn't. Oh yeah, that's just caked on there. And there's definitely some rust and some, I don't know what it is. That's all, like, there's water, like, that's all rust here. Yeah, so, I mean, that's going to be our answer, I think. I'm going to try to find something of this era, though, because that's a pretty decent card, from what I understand. And, I mean, if it works, it works. And I really want to see if it works in the system. I don't want to run it without that. So I've done some digging here just to kind of see what we could do in terms of video cards. And, unfortunately, I do not have, on any of my video cards in my spare stock, a similar fan that would fit on here. So I'm going to go online and see if I can find a replacement adapter, a fan here to this. It's just a shame. I want to get this video card running, keep it going. So I am going to work on getting that. But in the meantime, we need something for the system. And so I'm just going to put that aside for a moment. So I was caught between a couple of cards. We have an ATI 128 Pro AGP. Similar to the other card. I mean, the other card is a little more powerful, I believe. This, Rage 128 Pro. I was trying to keep something in the same kind of class in terms of, memory and all that good stuff. And I went ahead and found this one, which is, I think, a little more in line with what we're looking for. Now, it does have the I'm looking at this now and I'm wondering if there should be a fan on this card. It is a GeForce FX 5200, 128 AGP 8X, and 128 megs of memory. So this is definitely in line with the other card. Okay, I've gone ahead and done some research, and we do not need a fan on here. It's only if you run into any problems, it has the adapter for it. Okay, I'm going to put this aside just because if we found this and this works, we'll go ahead, and that's the most equivalent to what was in the system, and I think that's fair. I'm trying to keep it as, relevant to that as possible. Now, this card is pretty dirty. Let's go ahead and just give it a good clean, and we'll be, see all the dirt coming out of there. Okay, my spare part bin is not clean, so it's good to get all this going. I believe we have our video card that we're going to be using in the system. As equivalent as the other card as I could find in my parts bin, and I'm hoping that that will work. And then someday we will find a replacement for the fan for the other unit, and we'll get that installed and get that resurrected as well. Okay, now I think after we have all that cleaned up, I think the next step is to get the case all cleaned up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just move all these parts out of the way. We'll get the case up on the bench, and we'll start to really clean that up so we can prepare to get the board installed in the computer. Okay, we're back with our case on the bench, and I mean, this is pretty standard cleaning. We're just going to go ahead and take a rag and just a little bit of, to be honest with you, just a little bit of water. I mean, that's all it really needs right now. I don't want to drench this in water. I just want to kind of get the heavier kind of dust bunnies out of the system first, just to kind of make sure that we're in a good spot. And just without bending the IO shield. But the bottom itself seems to be the worst part of it for the case. I mean, you can see the dirt coming off on there. But yeah, just to get the heavier stuff kind of removed, and then we can do more of a thorough cleaning with some alcohol wipes and all that stuff. I just like to use the rag to get the bigger dust out of there. I find with these microfiber cloths, they really grab any of the dirt. When we just look at it, it's already shaping up to be really nice, or just the back already. We'll flip that around in a minute. On the front of it, we have definitely some smudges and some other things going on here. So we'll see if the magic eraser takes them off. Yeah, it's crazy the stuff the magic eraser can remove. Oh, see, there's that one that keeps on popping out. So there's definitely some there. Now there's a gouge in the plastic. That's not coming out. That's an actual gouge in the plastic itself. It would be nice to get this all restored because, I mean, you can see where the original beige was compared to the yellowed beige, which we'll work on as well. The purpose of this is just to get it to a point where we can test the system out, do this, and then, like I said, I could make this part of the process of the video series, the retrobrighting, but I'm looking to do an actual retrobrighting video where we take a couple of these components and compare the process and see how they work out. And yeah, so that's looking really good now, front of that case. And let's just do around the edges to make sure we're good there. And there's some deeper scuffs on the side here, definitely where it was thrown. I mean, I can get the dirt out of the actual gouge, but the gouge itself is going to be there. It's unfortunate, but it's par for the course, I suppose. The top of the case, I mean, it's quite dirty here, so I'm just going to see if the magic eraser can get some of that off. I mean, the actual rag itself is not doing a whole bunch, just because it's just water, but we'll see if the magic eraser takes any of that off. I mean, we can use the alcohol wipes too, but I just love how this just makes short work of the scuffs at the same time, and that deeper dirt that's in the paint is coming out nicely right now, so that's good. Makes a big difference, like just, yeah, huge difference. All right, I think we're in a better place there, so we're going to put that aside, and we're going to clean the two sides of the case while we are all apart here. So, I mean, nothing too bad on here. I'm just going to spray some alcohol on it, see if we can clean it off that way first. Yeah, so as you can see, not a lot comes off with that. So that's why I like to use the magic eraser for this. You can see it just takes it right off. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, or for the other, the other side. There we are. And we'll do the same thing. Again, make short work of everything that we need. Our nice clean tower. And we're going to put the front back on. I'm just going to feed all those cables through the front hole there where they came out of to begin with. And we should be good. It should be pretty straightforward. It should line up and just clip in. There. There, we have our front back on. Now I say let's go ahead and install a motherboard into this beautiful computer. I think we should do that next. Okay, let's go ahead and just do that. Just make sure that my shields are all good there. There we are. Make sure all these wires are out from under the board. Too often have I done that where they're jammed up underneath the screw or something. I'm just going to check my eye shield as well, make sure all the ports are popping through and they look good. And from what I see here, they do, which is good. And go ahead and start putting our screws in. Awesome. We have the motherboard in. Let's go ahead and pop in our CPU fan. And I had stated we were going to do it this way. So we'll pop it in that way. Make sure we plug in our CPU fan. So many times I've forgotten to do that. I warned you, don't worry. Okay, we have that in there. All right, before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and get the power supply and get that installed. Okay, so we have our power supply back, and it's been freshly cleaned up and all that good stuff, courtesy of the air compressor, so we have all that good. So I'm going to pop that in there as well. In the spot, there we go. And we'll get that all lined up. So we have our power supply mounted in there now, which is wonderful. And this time I am not, I repeat, not going to forget to put this into the ATX power supply plugins right into directly in the board. I know I had done that in our last build, and yeah, we're not going to do that this time. Okay, and the same thing here. We're going to get the other cable installed here as well. There we are. We have that installed. That's good. So now let's go ahead and install our optical drive. Get that put in. Just slide right in there nicely. There we are. And I'm going to line it up with the case itself. It wasn't earlier. It was brought right out in the front just because of the way the case is. But I'm just going to put it in a little further there. I just like the look of it better. There we are. We have our caddy. Now, I just noticed something. The caddy is quite bent. You can see that there. So we're going to bend that back into shape. Where is my persuader? So let's go ahead and just bend that back into shape. There. Well, that was looking pretty good. I have probably better ones I could use for this. That's why I'm going on an angle to give me more surface area. Generally, I have flatter tip. There we go. Okay, put that here. And I believe that just slides in like that. There we go. Yeah. And by the looks of things, there were screws. Yeah, there were 3 screws. Okay. Well, not at least the life of this now. Now for the drive, I'm just going to slide this in to see how this works, because my experience with these bezels, no, it seems to be okay. It's just my experience with these bezels are, you take the front bezel off of the floppy drive. Let me just go ahead and pop a disk in. I'm just going to make sure it's aligned right, because yeah, okay, that works. Seems to be going in and out, no problem there. So we'll go ahead and just continue on. Now, hard drive. What are we putting in this computer for a hard drive? I got a few over here. We could do a CF adapter and all that good stuff, but if you've seen my other videos, I don't tend to do that. Not for any other reason other than I just don't want to. Okay, we have a 120 gigabyte master. We have a 250 gigabyte hard drive from Western Digital. Yeah, I'm not putting a lot of things on here, but we can go ahead and just put in the larger drive, just because if I need the smaller drive for a different build. So here we are. We have our Western Digital 250 gigabyte hard drive, and it's IEE, so that's what we need. We'll pop it in the bottom slot here. And that's in there now. And we'll get that installed. Okay, so where do we stand? We have our DVD burner installed. We have power supply installed. We have our CPU installed, which I just realized that probably everybody is saying to me, you did not put any thermal grease in there. And if you didn't say that to me, well, duly noted. There. I completely forgot. I was so concerned about getting this on. That's why I do those mental checks, you know, just say, hey, okay, this is where we are. This is what we've done, that sort of thing. Because that's on there, good. Hold on. There, okay. Yeah, it's just one of those things, unfortunately, that gets missed. So it's important to think about it as you're going through. Now, with myself, I just like to talk it out, like I just did. And then I realized, oh, I did not put it on. And it's very important to do that. Okay, there's one. Try to make it as nice as possible, but this, you know, thermal grease. If you've worked with it, you know. Okay, there we are. Pop that on the way we had it. It's on there again. Pop this power supply for the fan back in. That's good. Now we have our thermal grease. So talk it back through again. So we have our power supply in. We have our CPU, our fans all cleaned, all hooked up, power sync, and everything's good. Just trying to plan it all out here. We're going to go ahead and connect our drive up top there. Now this is the one that was installed up here, and it's set to master because it's the only one on the chain. We'll pop that in there. There we are. And I'm just going to kind of tuck it in here. I'm going to tuck everything in here the best I can as we go, just because, you know, it's out of the way. And we'll pop this in here. This is to the interface to the board. I just realized we do not have a sound card in this system. Let's go ahead and see if I can get a sound card for this. Okay, I went ahead and found a Sound Blaster Live sound card. Just one I had in my parts bin. This is not the one that we had opened on in our other video. That was a brand new in stock, new old stock sound card. But yeah, let's go ahead and pop this in. I have an open slot here, so I'm going to utilize it so I don't have to open up one of the brackets. And we got a screw here. We'll get that put in as well. Okay, through the wonderful world of pausing, editing, and all that good stuff, I had took a picture of this earlier, and we have all the cables that are in there now, which is great. The other thing we're going to do now is get the CR2032 installed. Just going to grab a brand new one here from package. Here we are. Okay, we have that there. I just love these ones. Just slide in like that and it clips right in. Boom, done. That's great. So easy to install. We have that now. And okay, let's go ahead and see if I can find an audio cable for this CD-ROM drive or DB-ROM drive, so we can play audio through the computer to the sound card. Okay, we're not going to look out today. I do not have the cable that goes down to the sound card from the back of the optical drive. I just don't have it handy, so I'll put that on a later date, which is fine for what we're trying to do today. This will be just fine. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, I was hoping to get that in first, but if not, that's cool. We'll go ahead and pop this guy up here, and that's our power cable. And then here we have to hook up our floppy connector here. So this one here goes to the board, and I think I've just made it infinitesimally harder for me. So I'm going to take out the IDE cable here and pop in the, make sure I have the right one. This one here goes to the board. Okay, we have that on the board. And we'll stuff all that kind of in there behind the caddy. And we'll pop this in here like so. There we are. There we go. That made it a little easier for sure. Okay. And then what we'll do, I'm just taking an inventory check of everything mentally here. We don't want that to stay underneath that. That'll be good. Okay. Now we'll pop this back in now. This is for the IDE connector for the optical drive. I mean, it has two connectors on it in case you want to hook up another one. Okay, we have that on the board. And we now can connect the other, or connect the power for the floppy since we're here. That's on. It's good. And then before we connect the power for the hard drive, I'm just going to go ahead and pop this into the board. This is the IDE cable that was on the, well, left for the hard drive, I should say, because it wasn't really on it. And we'll just do this. I'm just trying to think of a better way to connect it so it's not. Here, let's do this. I just don't want the cable just to be all in the way there. Here, we have our IDE drive in there, connector, and then we have our Molex power. I think we're looking pretty good, everybody. So we have our front I/O panel connectors all connected, sound cards connected. We need RAM and video card. Who's screaming at the screen right now? Come on, tell me. Okay, let's pop this in. That's why we do a check over. Because there's so many different components that go into this that, yeah, it's important to triple check your work as you go. So we have our memory installed. We'll go ahead and hook up our video card. Remember, this is the GeForce 5200, I believe it was. Yeah, with 128 megabytes of RAM in it. Pop it in the AJP slot. Okay, and it clipped in. You can hear the back clipped in, which is great, which is what we want. And we'll put that screw in as well. So we have the power supply, we have the optical drive, we have our floppy drive, our hard drive. We have the CPU and everything connected. We also put the thermal grease on there. We have the video card that we had to use instead of the one that came with it because of the fan. If it was on there, there's a reason. So I have the sound card, the Sound Blaster Live that we found. We have all the IDE cables connected, the flop ribbon cables connected. We have the power connected. We have the brand new CMOS battery put in there. I think we're good. All right, let's go ahead and just get this bench all cleaned up and get ready to do our first power on test. Okay, and welcome back. We have our computer all set up here, plugged in, power supply is plugged in. I know I mentioned earlier when I took it out to the garage to blow it all out, I did plug it in. I didn't have any magic smoke then, but we'll see what happens now. So I just have our basic setup here, our keyboard, mouse, and our computer. Now that's all put back together. I left the side, again, my hand disappearing inside intentionally just to do the test to make sure that we are up and running and make sure that we didn't make any mistakes as we went. And if we did, we'll fix them as we go. Let's go ahead and turn on the computer to see if we get anything for first life. I hear one beep. MSI Core Cell Extreme chip. Video's coming up. What's it saying? Scan devices, tab. Okay, it's looking for devices. Okay. So this is great. we didn't do anything to have to fix anything yet. This is just, look at that beautiful screen up just for the very first time. This is just great. This is what you do. You all the cleaning, all the taking apart, all the proper steps as you go get you into a good place just as this. So this is very exciting for me to see this computer live. During our e-waste lookup, we didn't have anything like this. We weren't able to test the system due to the processor. We didn't know if the processor would work. It's coming up. We're using a video card, which I never tested before. It was in my parts bin. That's working. And, let's go into our CMOS to run setup because we did replace the battery, so we know that was going to be a problem. But I'm very pleased it's picking up the processor. I mean, that's a really good sign. And yeah, the numlock key is working great on the keyboard, so nothing's frozen. Let's hit F1 to run setup. Okay, so we have our AMD BIOS setup utility version 3.31. Let's go standard setup. So it's detecting everything for us already. So it detected the Western Digital 250 gig drive, which is wonderful, which we know we put that in there. We have the DVD RAM drive that we have there as well. That's wonderful. We have our floppy drive detected, which is also amazing. So let's go ahead and just switch the date here. I believe we're in 2023 still. No, it's been a long video. It is April, and I believe it's the 24th here. So let's, what's going on here? Oh, there we go. Okay, 24th. All right, we have our time set. Let's go escape there. Advanced BIOS, so boot sequence. It's going to go here, and it's going to go floppy first, then the IDE hard drive, and then the CD. Let's go CD first, and then we'll go hard drive third, and go like that. Okay, smart disks. We have that disabled for now. That's fine. And let's go here, advanced chipset features. And so it's detecting the memory. That's one thing it didn't actually detect was the memory. It didn't show a memory count. So I'm curious to see. And it's detecting as DDR200, which is fine. But yeah, with the AGP mode, 128 megabytes, good. Detecting the power, detecting the AGP card. PC health status, great. I mean, CPU is running at 42 degrees Fahrenheit, which is awesome. And fan is working amazingly. We can see the fan RPM there. Northbridge fan speed is 3100 RPM. Yeah, this is really, really, really good. We have our 5 volt looking good. Our 12 volt rails looking good based on the internal. That's awesome. Now you can go in here and tweak all the settings. I'm not doing that with this at the moment because we don't even know everything working just yet. So enter to continue to save. Okay, so I was able to go into the CMOS and disable the internal RAID on the SATA port, so that's been shut down, so we don't need that anymore, and it gave us this screen, which is what we're looking for. So we have the AMD Athlon 64 processor at 3000 plus 2 gigahertz, I believe it is. It's detecting all 512 megabytes of memory, which is amazing. It shows the DRAM stuff, and then it shows your setup, your boot menu, etc., 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 and then it goes through auto detecting. Let's just let it do that, and it detects everything, and then tries to boot from the network configuration. So yeah, we're in a really good space here now. I mean, we're going to end the video on this note today. I know it's been a very long video as it is, but isn't this exciting, everybody? We have a working computer that we took out of e-waste. This one was more questionable. This computer specifically was more questionable because of the heatsink being off of that CPU. And because the heatsink was off the CPU, we didn't exactly know if that CPU was going to function, and it is functioning. And so the memory, the same thing. We weren't able to test the memory, which it works just fine. We also had that the hard drive and floppy caddy kind of just floating around in there. So goodness knows what damage could have been done to the motherboard. But upon proper cleaning of the entire system inside, we did a proper removal, tested everything, put deoxit in all the slots, made everything clean, put brand new thermal paste on here, popped it in here. We have fully working AMD Athlon custom built PC, which I think is just amazing. Again, another system resurrected from the so-called PC graveyard. So in part 2 of the series, what we're going to do is work on the installing an operating system and getting all the drivers installed that we've installed. So remember, we installed a sound card, we installed the video card, and a couple other things. So we want to get all that installed and get that functioning. And I'll do some research. I mean, we've done a few 98 builds already, so I think, either running a Windows 2000 build or running Windows XP. Again, knowing the BIOS is 2004, the CPU is released in 2001. We're probably looking at the XP era for this, and I think we'd be comfortable doing that. So yeah, I think we're in a really good space now. So, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, because you'll be notified the minute I release a new video such as this. And again, thank you to absolutely everyone who has spent time with me today on this. I really enjoyed spending time being able to share this with everybody. And again, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.